Trojans. Jack Wang is the UCLA beat writer for the LA Daily News. He joins us on SportsCenter. Jack, what kind of a day has this been for a team that made a lot of early headlines, especially in the morning, early afternoon, talking about the UCLA Bruins?
It's been a pretty good day overall. Like you said, kind of the big news all came really early when Chris Clark and Soso Jamabo committed to UCLA before really the sun was even fully up here on the West Coast. But a wrench got kind of thrown in late in the morning here when the report came out that the Atlanta Falcons were looking at defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich as a linebackers coach. And that's still, I'm told that that is not a done deal yet, but it doesn't seem like he said no to the offer either. And that's kind of put the recruitment of four-star linebacker Roquan Smith, who would announce on ESPN for UCLA over Georgia, that's kind of on hold for now.
Okay, so perhaps Smith, the public announcement and then the fanfare surrounding that, maybe that's not as set in stone. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. They've gotten the letters of intent in from every single recruit except him. And his high school coach has told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that, the only thing that's kind of holding them up right now is what Ulbrich decides. And I think Jim Mora is set to address the press today at 4:30 here on the West Coast. So we should get more clarity on that in a few hours.
So in a couple hours there. Any idea if there's any sort of time frame? I can't imagine that the offer letter would have any sort of expiration coming from Jim Mora. But as a program, you do want to move forward with your recruiting class. Any idea how long Smith is going to have to decide?
I don't think there's really a set time because Georgia's going to wait, I think, as long as they need to get him. And UCLA, I think, right now is still trying to keep Jeff Ulbrich. But besides this whole kind of controversy that's happened, it's been a pretty big day overall for UCLA, not just of the talent coming in, but because of the way it happened. I mean, you're seeing all these recruits announced for UCLA. You're seeing Snoop Dogg come out with his son when Cordell Broadus announced for UCLA and kind of say, we're Bruins now. And obviously Snoop is well known for being a diehard USC fan. So I think not just in what happened, but in the way it happened has been really big for the Bruins.
Yeah, what's the old adage from parents? It's not what you said, it's how you said it. And a lot of these announcements, as you say, coming on a national stage. And that kind of dovetails nicely into what I wanted to ask you about how Jim Mora has improved the Bruins recruiting, not only in Southern California, where they're trading blows with the Trojans across town, but nationally as well.
Yeah, I think you definitely see that national effort pay off this year. Chris Clark and Soso Jamabo out of Connecticut and Texas, respectively. Joshua Arboko, top recruit in Oklahoma, pulling him out of there was pretty impressive as well. And they have a great offensive line class coming in with recruits at pretty much every position up there. And last year, it's kind of the polar opposite of last year, where they had guys line up on the last day but missed on a lot of them. Five-star receiver Malachi Dupree ends up at LSU. Rashawn Evans ends up going to Alabama. And after that, Jim Mora was talking to the press, and he was trying to play up. He was really happy with the guys that he did get, but he was clear that he was a little bit disappointed, but that wasn't going to stop him from going out and trying to get these recruits, especially from the Deep South. And I think the exact quote he gave last year was, "We were the bridesmaids. Heck, we might have even been the ring girl on a couple of guys today, but we were in the wedding." And it's just complete opposite this year.
That's a nice analogy from Jim Mora. So let's speak to that disappointment. Maybe who was the biggest miss for this UCLA coaching staff, and who was the biggest get?
The biggest miss today, I think, was defensive tackle Joseph Wicker out of Long Beach Poly. A lot of people thought that he was a strong UCLA lean, but he ended up announcing for Arizona State. And without him, UCLA doesn't have an interior defensive lineman for this class, which they really could have used, especially if Kenny Clark and Eddie Vanderdoes potentially leave for the 2016 NFL draft, as they both have strong seasons. And I think the only other miss would really be Roquan Smith, if depending on how that shakes out with him and Jeff Ulbrich.
And what about the biggest get, Jack?
Biggest get? You can probably take your pick between, well, first of all, the biggest get, if you're looking at the class overall, is definitely Josh Rosen, #1 quarterback, and someone they need to step in and presumably fill the role of three-year starter Brett Hundley. But if you're more focused on what's happened today, I'd probably go with tight end Chris Clark. And it's because he's the type of tight end that they haven't had since Jim Mora's been at UCLA. They've sort of relied on these hybrid pass catchers who have been, pretty successful for them over the years. But Chris Clark, you have a true tight end, a guy who can really block and just gives this offense a different type of weapon.
And again, Clark speaking to the national reach now of that UCLA Bruin recruiting staff, getting him here actually from the East Coast. That is LA Daily News UCLA beat writer Jack Wang with the latest from Los Angeles on SportsCenter. Still ahead, could the Thunder